Welcome to episode 9 of the Developing Life podcast. As we navigate the complexities of artificial intelligence, a question remains prevalent. How can we ensure that the development of AI not only recognizes, but actively incorporates diverse perspectives to effectively break longstanding biases? Today, we have with us Meca Ayo Cole. Meca Ayo is a queer singer, multi-genre writer, itinerant nerd, and massage therapist from Denver, Colorado, and a force in advocating for diversity and inclusivity. Challenging and reshaping narratives, ensuring safe expression of identity, they have been featured in various literary magazines, art exhibits, and publications. In 2021, Meca Ayo debuted their first book, An Identity Politic, exploring themes of familial estrangement, identity, and reconciliation. They're currently involved in several projects, including a solo show combining photography and poetry, and a collaborative initiative with the Cellists of Change, intertwining poetry with orchestral music and nature imagery. Join this conversation hosted by Heather Crank as Meca Ayo shares insights on how diversity in AI not only can prevent biases, but also enrich our technological advances and collective futures. Heather?
Thank you, True. Welcome, Meca Ayo. I'm so thrilled to have you here. For those people who don't know you, you and I met, I'm going to say 15 years ago in
Oh,
Denver, Colorado. Yep.
wasn't that long ago?
Yeah. It was that long ago. And you worked at the Starbucks below an office I was working in. And when we met, I just loved you immediately. There was an instant connection. We became fast friends and went out for fried pickles. Um, I am so happy to interview you. And just to give our audience a little bit of an introduction, you are multi-talented. You have done incredible projects for several years, and you're huge on community. Would you please take a moment and introduce yourself and let people know who you are?
Okay. Hi, I'm Meca Ayo. Uh, I sing a bit. I'm a writer. I'm a photographer apparently. I collect photos on my cell phone, and I'm learning how to use an actual camera. And people are starting to call me to take my images off of just social media.
Mhm.
And so I've started to be in some group shows, and I have a solo show now, which is mind-boggling. And do different projects, different kinds of media with that, everything from poetry postcards to zines.
Mhm.
And I hope some more multimedia stuff soon. I just have things to learn.
You were acknowledged by art critic and writer of the Westward, Susan Freud, as one of Colorado's 100 creatives. Was she the person that encouraged you to get your work out into the world a little bit more?
It's so funny about that article because I remember when she sent me, "Hey, do you want to give it a try?" I thought she was asking me if I wanted to interview people. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure. That's totally cool." And she's like, "No, I mean you." And I'm like, "What?" So a lot of this is her fault. She's actually the one who told me I needed to get my images off of social media.
Mhm.
Susan Freud's a really sweet, beautiful human, and is definitely a fan of all things creative. And so she's a really great friend here.
So I love Susan Freud. She's an
Yeah.
amazing person. She really supports the artists of Denver, and is a huge force. In addition to Susan, how did you end up in Denver, Colorado? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Boise, Idaho. Definitely needed a change. Boise is a red state. I'm a queer brown person. I do miss the river though. A lot of the naturey stuff I miss so much about Idaho. Um, but I needed a change. It's a small town still. I mean, it's bigger than it was, but um, so we moved here. We almost actually moved to New Jersey as a segue to New York, the person I was with at the time. We were both musicians. He played saxophone. He's living his dream in New Orleans now. I'm very happy for him. No longer angry. um, and I guess I'm living my dream too. I try really hard to live in accordance with who I want to be, who I am, and my creativity.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's challenging, but that's I've made a lot of decisions in that regard. That's pretty important to me.
Mhm. As an artist, I know you've also worked in generative AI. You've actually helped me with some of my workshops,
Mhm.
and you have kind of been experimenting with your own work to see what it can do. There's a lot of backlash in the art
Yeah.
community around Gen AI
Mhm.
because of the way it learns. And a lot of the people jumping on the Gen AI train are generally white males or the people who
Yeah.
are being the loudest. I would love for you to speak to your experience as an artist dabbling in Gen AI and then mastering Gen AI.
I don't
And
I don't know if I'm a master. I need to take more classes from you.
okay, well, we'll say someone who's using it in their practice, as well as how can we make sure that people, all kinds of people, are included in
Yeah,
this process and just not, white tech bros out of Silicon
sure.
Valley.
So definitely, absolutely. I feel pretty strongly about this. Like especially as a mixed race Black person, like there, even when we're talking about Blackness, there aren't a lot of models or actors.
Mhm,
There's more now, but when I was a teenager, say, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me
mhm,
necessarily.
mhm,
And I was always looking for that. And
mhm.
so like playing with the I love playing with AI to try to make things that maybe my hands could have created if I had the skills. And also to try to see what I can do in collaboration with my photography as well. So those things have been really fun. Um, and it's been really surprising and beautiful and sometimes scary because it's just, I mean, we all know you can create things much more quickly with
Mhm,
AI assistance than
mhm,
you can at home. So
mhm,
like maybe if I try to figure out how to paint something and I take my time about it, it's probably going to take me many months, if not longer. And I can noodle with words, which is something I do anyway, and create something really interesting and beautiful, and then noodle with it in like photography apps or whatever,
mhm,
and just keep working until there's something that's very pleasing to me.
mhm,
So I don't generally just generate AI stuff and just use that, but I usually try to noodle with it a bit.
mhm,
And then as far as like representation, I absolutely think it's important for all of us to work in it. I met someone the other day who is a linguist and was working with AI
mm,
on that level. And my eyes got really, really big. I was like, "Whoa, what's that like?" This was a beautiful Black woman from Africa,
uh-huh,
and she was telling me like she just keeps taking these freelance projects with her linguistics background, and she couldn't really exactly tell me what she was doing, but I was
mhm,
like, "Yeah, that's extremely important because, as we all know, um, like language becomes there's like an overarching system of language that says it's quote unquote right, right?
right,
But
yep,
all of us have different ways of speaking based on our experience and where we come from and the people we hang around, etc. And yeah, there are different word games and stuff, but a lot of that gets lost if we're only speaking in one channel.
mhm,
And I think that's the same with art. Like the things we see, the way our eyes work, the materials we've worked with, so that's something that we've learned to, I think, together is like the more you know about like art history and
mhm,
materials and
mhm,
lighting,
mhm,
then it becomes more interesting when you're collaborating with AI. And then another point that I know I wanted to bring up is like there's this meme of two cats on a beach, and one of them's fishing, and there's a pail beside him, and there's another cat fishing in the pail. And often you'll see that in relation to AI. And so the cat fishing in the pail is called AI,
mhm,
um, and the cat fishing in the sea is like, you know, a person. And so the funny thing about that is like everything is trickle down. Everything is trickle down. And so
mhm,
like if we created AI, it is created in the way we work. And like as a creative person, people fish out of my damn pail. They just
mhm,
take shit out of my pail and often don't even do anything else with it. They
mhm,
just yoink it. And
mhm,
like I'm having more peace with it now. But like, that's the thing, is like, AI works in the way that we work. How can it not, right? It just does it so incredibly fast, and that
Right.
freaks people out. It
Right.
freaks people out.
Yeah. I mean, borrowing people's work or style or ideas
Yeah,
is definitely not new.
do my art in your style. That's a whole Instagram thing, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. No, and a lot of times when people write dissertations about their work and what they're doing, they always talk about their influences, and
Yeah,
the influences, are people they are borrowing from. So I
yeah,
really agree. I feel like everything is a mashup, mix up anyway, and AI, you're right, just works like we work, but it does it faster. So
way
it's more
faster.
threatening and it's also more visible. Like someone could be stealing from you or I or any artist, but we don't know about it. And
Right,
AI has just basically brought it right to the front.
right. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, what people need. Stop slamming the door. I think that's what people need to like come to grips with, is it is a mirror we're staring into.
That's right.
It's, it is, and if we're not interacting with it, yeah, it's going to, I mean, we should have been interacting with it decades ago. That's the other thing people don't realize. Even as a writer who was writing a little bit of news, dabbling in that, we knew that AI was writing a lot of kind of statistical based news. So, like
Mm-hmm.
financial news, sports
Mm-hmm.
news, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not surprising that, students are trying to get away with using Chat GPT in their essays in their 1010 classes. So yeah, we need to have the conversations. It's not going away. And like sometimes I am afraid of it, but mostly I'm excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you've said this, it's like there's a certain degree of access that is available if you're willing, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
that's exciting.
I feel that too. Yeah, it's really exciting. And for those people who don't know, you received an MFA from the Mile High Creative Writing Program at Regis.
Mhm.
Um, and you are a prolific writer as well as a creator and a singer. Um, what drove you to pursue that MFA? And if you were doing it now with where AI has been going and is gone, how would that change your perspective?
So a lot of my decisions were based on relationships. So I wanted to stay here, and that MFA popped up. So I'm in that first cohort, and it's pretty cool. There's still a community of people surrounding that. And so those decisions happened that way. When I first went away to school in 1995, I had a music scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it didn't work out. There's some things I learned now that if I was kind of a stronger person, maybe I could have fought,
Mm-hmm.
because it was actually taken away from me pretty unjustly.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty messy. Um, but anyway, I don't want to go down that road. So music was my first kind of school thing. And then when I moved to Denver, I had been working for a while, kind of working in law firms and doing different things. And I just remember I had this job at a place called Telecheck. So we were processing bad checks and
Mm-hmm.
having conversation with some of my friends there. And some people had been there like decades. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, I think I'm going to go back to school, and I'm just not going to worry about the cost. I'm not going to worry about it. Writing has always been with me. And so I really thrived in that undergrad program. Didn't go to my MFA till much later when one of my undergrad professors, who's a dear friend of mine, Sandra Doe, she just retired after 50 years of teaching, 53 years, I think it was. And she yelled at me in front of my friends, and she said, "When are you getting your MFA?"
Wow. Wow. Oh my
So that's
God.
so that MFA popped up, and I was like, I don't know, I felt obligated, and I was like, yeah, maybe you're right, I don't know. But it's been a good experience. It's opened up my world a lot. Um, a lot of the friends I have now are because I took that path.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I still am thinking about more school. I'm a massage therapist too. So massage therapy pays more than the liberal arts. um, and yeah, I don't know. That's kind of messily
So,
how I did.
okay, so you went through your MFA program and you're using massage therapy to support yourself.
Hmm.
If you were like today, if
Yeah.
someone said, would you come teach at the MFA program and you have Chat GPT and Claude on the scene, how would that
Hmm.
change the way you would approach that?
Yeah, we'd definitely be having some talks about that. I mean, it's the same kind of talks I imagine that we have about um, crediting all of your
So,
images.
uh-huh.
So I have this idea of radical credit. A lot of people won't give radical credit. They'll just pass information on as
Mm-hmm.
their own. And I think that's probably most people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but an example I like to give is like this image that I found. It was one of the wheat pastes from Big Picture, Colorado, and it was like 20 years ago or so. And it had been wabi-sabied by the weather, and all that was remaining was the person's kind of eyes area and the
Uh-huh.
freckles. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just, and like, I think she was holding flowers or something. It was really beautiful. And we wanted to use it for a music project for an album cover. I'm like, well, I got to know, I got to get credit for this because it's not, I'm just collecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found out it was Christopher Perez, who's a big photographer here. And from Chris, I found out that the subject was Esme Patterson,
Mm-hmm.
or Esme Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
And his idea was like, it's not even in my photo anymore because it's been wabi-sabied, etc. And it doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
matter who's in the photo, blah, blah, blah. But he gave me the info. And I felt really good about that because it was just like, it also draws attention to these other things that happen that are also important, that are like, it's my feeling everything is collaborative and it's okay to acknowledge that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's like the bottom line for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
like for AI, especially like I'm in a bunch of business classes now, and people are doing a lot of their websites writing with AI and chat
Mm-hmm.
GPT. And they're
Mm-hmm.
very open about it. They're very excited about it. And again, it provides a certain level of access. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I can ask these questions of AI, and yeah, I have to doctor it a little bit, but I don't have to stare at a blank screen for 10 hours wondering if I can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So sometimes I get uncomfortable with that, but at the same time, a lot of copy
Mm-hmm.
is basic information, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the financial stats or the sports stats. It's like it kind of honestly sucks to be a writer and have to write that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
um it's not, it's just, you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. So so do you feel like if someone is using a chat GPT or Claude or Midjourney or whatever in the process of their work, do you think it's important that they credit that?
Absolutely.
They tag it?
um
Okay.
yeah. I mean, personally, I wrote this in collaboration with, and then I supplement it with resources from, because in academic writing it's absolutely important to have resources, and not just to support your cause or ideas, but so it becomes a little tricky with that kind of writing. It's like, yeah, I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what your background on this and what led you here.
Mm-hmm.
Your impetus for that, right? And then I want to know what articles and books you checked out, what movies you checked out. Because when you collaborate with Chat GPT, those resources aren't there.
Right.
So I tested it out with just like, okay, what if I wanted to do a blog for a massage therapy blog? Because a lot of it is rehashed information. So let's test stretching the hamstrings and staying hydrated. And it did pretty well. It did pretty well. And I was like, okay, a 300-word article about how to stretch the hamstrings. There it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, where are the resources? And from my experience of working as a massage therapist since 2011, what examples can I add? So like
Mm-hmm.
all of those things are very important. You can't just use it dry.
Right.
I mean, you can, but that's dumb.
Yeah. So you're saying use it as like you would use research material that you would footnote at the bottom of the page
Yeah, and
to add.
paraphrase.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also I'd like to go back just for a second. So the Big Picture Colorado, can you speak to that event and how it evolved and what it is?
I'm not in it, so I'm not like super knowledgeable of that. I just know that when I moved here, I started seeing these wheat prep paste everywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
it's some of my favorite things to see in Denver. And it's all these different photographers, and they blow up these beautiful black and white images, and they're wheat pasted on like museums and fences, like all kinds of different businesses. And so I remember I was just very curious about that and found out it was Big Picture Colorado. um I guess, yeah, I still am nervous to call myself a photographer, but before I was a photographer, I had a lot of photographer friends, and I've always been interested in their work and like the processes they're working with and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so that thing, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I think I know his name. I'm just blanking out on his name.
Is it
Mark
Mark
Sink.
Sanking? Mark
Yeah, Mark
Sink.
Sink. I think that's maybe he's the main person for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also an amazing photographer. His wife's amazing, just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are lots of real nerdy photographers that hang around that camp who are like, yeah, interested in processes and stuff. I always rub my hands like this when I'm talking about photographic processes because it's just so lovely and so like tactile.
So you and I collaborated with the Ottawa Design Club, speaking of photography and
Yeah.
images. Um, and our theme was hope. And you produced this gorgeous poem in collaboration with myself and my husband. And it was called Catalog of Hope. Would you be willing to read that poem for us?
I'd have to find it. You didn't tell me I was reading poems.
Well,
Yeah,
what?
that poem I had started, so a lot of the stuff I have written and published that hasn't been like news or something has been pretty hard and sad and often
Mm-hmm.
angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been wanting to write circling around hope more, because I know a lot. I know I'm not alone in like feeling busted by the
Yeah.
stuff we're seeing all the time. And also, it's often hard to have hope.
It's really
um,
hard.
yeah, and I'm just like, kind of like, hope is the only thing I have left. And I really like talks that talk about hope as a discipline. And so this poem came out of, um, I was also working with a group called Art from Ashes. I don't really work with them anymore. But it came from one of their workshops,
Mm-hmm.
and those workshops look at the trauma and transmute it. So like you could think of it like, this is coming from one of their workshops too. You can think of it as your favorite china, your favorite dish, your favorite mug or whatever. And if you throw it on the ground and it cracks, it's in a bunch of different pieces. And if you say you're sorry to it, it's not going to break, it's not going to change the broken pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But there, hope as discipline might look like creating a mosaic out of those pieces and then adding your gift. So like whatever jewels you have, you add to the mosaic. And then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes something really beautiful that you can carry into the world. And that's not my metaphor, that's their metaphor.
It's
And so this
beautiful.
comes from one of their exercises. I'm almost there.
That's okay. And
um,
while you're looking for that, I also would like to speak to you use a lot of your photography and your poetry, um, and you create a lot of zines, and we'll get into that after you read this poem. And I would love to hear about what you've been working on. So,
okay, here's the poem. I used to be a catalog of doubt, but now I am a catalog of hope. I used to be a green switch my parents made me pull off a tree when I was in bad trouble, but now I'm laying on the bench watching the branches sway as the wind blows. I used to be 4 taxis, 2 airplanes, and a rented car that smoked over new mountain roads to an uncertain house whose moldering walls were not mine. Now I am a home full of books and memories and a special tea set I reserve just for company. I used to run all the time, but now I sit in the muck of it, until the muck settles and my toes leave prints at the soft mud bottom, and I start to see the little fishies swimming around my ankles. I used to cry a lot, and I still cry a lot, though the crying happens for different reasons. It's not always sadness. Sometimes it's because a strange and beautiful song I've never heard before strikes me. Sometimes a baby smiling makes the whole world right and my heart crack open to light. How can it not? I used to hope for rainbows after it rained, but now I take a walk in the drizzle, study the slants, sometimes let myself get soaked by a downpour, like the time I rode my bike through a torrential storm I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it through. My arms' hairs bristling and my shoes sloshing cold as I pedaled fiercely through deep puddles on the path. I prayed and I prayed the lightning wouldn't strike down, and it didn't. I pedaled and pedaled, ran my bike up the stairs and into my apartment. I went to the door to look back over the direction I'd come from. It was a sky full of dark, roiling clouds. I held the railing of my porch, heart pounding, wondering if I'd do it again. Yeah, I'd do it again.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, you just give me goosebumps every time you write that. So I'd like to talk about 2 things. I'd like to talk about the zines and the projects you have going on.
Okay.
And then I'd like to talk about more about inclusion with Gen AI and
Yeah.
what we can do collectively, what we can do individually to make sure we have better representation.
Okay. That was a few things, and my brain went.
Pick one. And
So
why
what?
don't you go
I
ahead?
guess let's start with the representation.
Okay.
I mean, if we're opting out, we're not representing our interests. I think that opting out is a valid response.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my response. And I understand it. I understand the fear because I have some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in massage, like is my job going to become obsolete because of massage therapy? And it's like it's kind of like, yeah, if I don't learn more, if I don't work on my customer service skills, if I don't do my self work, probably,
Mm-hmm.
that's already being worked on, like for a pretty good massage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like representation, like I grew up in a trailer park. I'm a queer brown person, and I speak this certain way. I did go to school, and I have some ideas that definitely ruffle the feathers of the norm. And all those things are really important to me and some other people I know. And like, if I just opt out, then we're not participating, we're not collaborating with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love playing with AI to try to figure out what words it understands to create all kinds of people. Um, uh, we see some of that, like some of it is like uncanny valley. So like nice aunties is one I follow on
Uh-huh.
Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we have older women having lots of fun in these
Uh-huh.
ridiculous landscapes. And then like I do a lot of poetry postcards. And so for my Patreon, because I needed to battle my fear and also really stick to my guns about the need to collaborate with it, I offer one AI art each month with a poetry postcard. So that one's a
Mm-hmm.
digital card, and then
Mm-hmm.
one photo art each month that I send in the mail. And the AI art has been fun because it's just like, okay, how do I create someone who could be a sister or a cousin or even people I come from. And so that's really fun to figure out what those words are. And sometimes it takes using the other tools there, like describing a picture of myself, for example, or and combining them, blending them. Those are like two of my favorite functions of Midjourney. And then all of a sudden, my face is informing that algorithm, and I like
Interesting.
that.
Okay.
So
Do you, because so much of the imagery that Gen AI is trained on the web has to do with what our culture values, which
mhm,
I'm going to say probably is mostly a lot, especially in positions of power, we're going to see a lot of white men.
yeah.
Do you find it difficult when you're working with Gen AI to be able to get it to show you what you want it to generate so that you feel represented?
I actually don't.
Oh, good. Okay.
I I mean, so I'm racially ambiguous, so I play with that in the AI.
Mhm.
Um, and I also play with maybe it's as simple as a brown person as the descriptor, maybe. And
Mhm.
that doesn't always work because there are some tropes in there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, and I think they are changing
Mhm.
because like lots of people are interacting with it.
Mhm.
And so that's been really fun to see. Um, I think maybe in the beginning it was much harder. Like a lot of fairy princesses were happening no matter what you would do. You know what I mean? Like Susan, not even like really polished Susan Seton Boulay kind of shit. Like just
Mhm.
it was really nice, but it was very also, that's kind of what was happening a lot.
Okay. And so now that you're doing all of your poetry postcards and you're setting things out and you're experimenting, you've also included this in a lot of scenes that you're doing and artwork that you're producing. What do you have going on right now?
A lot. I have a problem with not really celebrating stuff I do. I just keep going. So I intermittently do zines. It's kind of like, oh, it's late at night, I want to make a zine. Or oh, this thing happened today, I'm gonna make a zine. Or I have an awful lot of pictures of road flowers. I should probably make a zine, right?
Mhm.
And we're gonna make this zine for Cellist for Change. That thing happened yesterday and it was really wonderful. Cellist for Change is a nonprofit that Psyche started during COVID isolations. And I
Mhm.
kept thinking all day yesterday, like, this is what love does. This is what love can do. And so there are all these beautiful youth from like 8 years to high school playing cellos, and they're playing this beautiful music, some of which they've composed, some of which has been commissioned. I can't remember the composer's name right now, but he's from Guatemala. And it was all nature themed, and also humans' interaction with nature. And so we made some collaborative poems, the youth and I,
Mhm.
and we're going to put that in a zine. And I'm really going to push for us to put it as a PDF download, so people can also have access to it. It was so cool. It was beautiful.
And was this in connection with Earth Day too? So
Yes,
yes,
yes.
so we're celebrating our
Save the earth.
beautiful Earth today.
Yeah.
So how did you get connected to that project?
Another poet friend, my friend Andre Hoylet. He's a Jamaican poet who is a Cave Canem fellow,
Mhm.
and also a fellow cohort. He's in a sister cohort from the Regis Mile High MFA.
Oh, wow. Okay. So can you, as we're talking about art and your progress and your zines and everything that you have going on, my multi-talented friend, um, can you give me who your top 3 artists are right now or top
Oh,
3 books that you are absolutely loving to read?
I actually really meant to make a list of that because like I love so many things. My top favorite artist right now, whose work I'm in awe of, is an artist here named Sam Grabowska, and I think I have their name right. They also do a lot of trauma-informed work for architecture and spaces. Their work is just, I just remember the first time I saw their work, it was like a video, and it was like very intimate shots of people comforting themselves. And so sometimes you see a hand on a belly, or like it was just very intimate. And then this sculptural piece that was like metal, I think I understood that it felt like a body, but I didn't quite understand what it was, especially in conjunction with the video. And they work with a lot of hair also, a lot of hair in their performance and art. And so their art actually is an outline. Those structures are outlines of people in those poses of comfort when they're self-comforting. And they're just very beautiful. To me, I know some people are like, oh, I don't know, it makes me feel weird. I'm like, I love it so much. They are an amazing human as well. So I will say their name ever and ever and ever. I I I guess I'm also in awe of a poet named Matthias Valina. He delivers dreams and nightmares from his bicycle from state to state. That's what he does.
Wow.
And the dreams, like I have a box of his dreams. And he just had a new book come out called Thank You Terror. And that book cracked me open. I thought I was not connected with my feelings except for anger. And in that book, I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to forgive everyone. Doggone it. Like, forgive all the bungholios. Because this book just literally broke me open in like really a very beautiful way. Because it draws you into like, you know, just, I don't know. I can't even describe it right now because I'm still processing all of that. And I'm trying to think of a third person. There's just so many people. Heather Crank.
Oh my God. Okay, you can't. That's not allowed. Not allowed.
I'm like, because I mean, you have done multiple things. Like you've been a dancer and photographer and like AI art, digital design, you know, like animation, and like really good at all of it. And it's just that's I think when I first met you, I actually was like, oh my God, I don't know, this person's really cool. I'm not very cool.
That's not fair. You're not supposed to do that during the interview.
I know, but I really do feel that way though. Like I'm very supportive, community building, all those things. Like there are lots of artists whose work I love, but I don't necessarily love the way maybe they've worked with me, treated me, or necessarily agree with the way they work.
Right.
You know,
I get it.
And so that's where it gets tricky because, you know, if you talk shit about people, then you're just isolating yourself. So I won't name any of those people.
This is part of your forgiveness practice happening right now.
Your art is great. I love that.
So can you tell me one more time? I'm very intrigued by this book. It's called Terror, and who's it by?
It's called Thank You, Terror.
Thank You, Terror.
By Matthias Valina. And I'll put his name.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very curious about this book. Speaking of terror, there is an awful lot going on right now in the world. We've got AI, which is disrupting lots of the creative industry.
Yep.
We have a lot of global situations happening. And I also feel like we were talking about earlier, a lot of artists are very afraid of what's happening and their work being, as I read someone said the other day, gobbled up.
Yeah.
How can we continue to move forward as artists and creative people in this atmosphere and continue making and continue being in community without this need to polarize everything?
Right.
And I know that's a big question. So
It is a big
your
question.
personal feelings, there's no right or wrong.
I mean, my personal feeling is, like, personally, I like AI. I'm excited by it. I am, yes, also afraid of it. And there is also an impetus to, like, learn how to do more things with my hands, even if I do it terribly. There's like a strawberry stitch I want to learn how to crochet, for example. There's I don't know, just like actually making things with my hands. Um, I've been trying to have a sketch practice, and my sketches are worse than they were in eighth grade at this point because I haven't been practicing. But
Mhm.
I do know what each of my pencils can do, right? And
Mhm.
that's a certain knowledge that, like, that's knowledge that the AI doesn't have. And so I do think that that is something we need to do. We do need to figure out ways to pull away from all the lit triangles and make something or dig something up or plant something or, you know, dance or whatever creative thing it is. We're still human, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I think all of those things are still very important. And so, like, I think of AI as something I get to collaborate with.
Mhm.
And how do I want to collaborate with that? It's kind of the same as social media. Like, how do I want to collaborate with social media?
Mhm.
In what ways is it disrupting my life, and in what ways is it bringing boons? And recognizing those things and then acting accordingly.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like, I actually thought about not having internet at my house because I'm online all the time. So, for example, because I
Mhm.
want to pull away and learn how to use the drill that came with my new apartment, you know, like, let's build some stuff. I think that all is really important. Still, yeah, maybe mending things, like, just, I don't know. And there are lots of movements towards that. I know a lot of millennial age folks have been doing like slow food and slow living.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I think I don't, I'm 75% not afraid.
Uh-huh.
Um, and sometimes because AI is in everything. It's in music, it's
Mhm.
in massage, it's
Mhm.
in art, obviously, it's in writing, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. It's in
Mhm.
language.
Yes.
So, and it's also exciting, I think.
Yeah, I do too. All right. So I'd like to know, what are your long-term goals over the next 2 to 3 years? We're in a period of rapid change. Where
Mhm.
do you see yourself going as things continue to evolve for artists in the creative industry? And where would you like to be?
I'll start with that. Ideally, I'd love to live for a while in Berlin and learn how to take amazing photographs. That's been very strong in my mind for a few years. Definitely want to check out more nature places. Yeah, those are the main things. I mean, I'll still be writing. I'll still be making music, probably more than I have in a long time. And I have made a commitment to be the best massage therapist that I can be in the next 2 years, and then we'll see after 2 years' time. Because I want to see some other places and meet some other people,
Mhm.
and just, like, yeah, I want to. That's I want to move. I want more freedom. Um, and then, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. And then, as far as like directions I want to go, I am very mercurial. There are many directions I'd like to go. Sometimes I think I'm going to do an acupuncture program, because every time I go get acupuncture, I think I need to become an acupuncturist because it's such amazing work. And I'm also interested in design and some of the things that we can do in design as far as creating the worlds that we want to live in.
Mhm.
So taking it off of the page and, um, like, and I've experienced some of that a little bit at Shop at Matter, with Rick Griffith, and Deborah Johnson. Um, and there are a lot of things with the way they work that feel very powerful. And so like me on the DIY level, like I want to know what that looks like. Like what does it look like kind of in the grit, like what does it look like for I grew up in the trailer park. Like what does it look like in the trailer park? Stuff like that. Because I think we're gonna need more collaborative and more I don't know. We just got to think differently for things to keep changing, so that drones aren't in our windowsill, like that stuff. So yeah. Sorry
agreed.
to take it there, but
No. We need a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different people. I think it's super important. I have one last question here for you before I open it up to the audience. And this is a little personal, so
okay.
answer it however you want. I know your history and your upbringing. I know the kind of situation that you grew up in.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share a little bit about that and how you overcame or were able to use that broken plate to be able to become who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still becoming. I recently made a decision to not be angry all the time, and that's hard work. There's so much to be angry with, and there are a lot of real poo-poo people, you know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of people that just like whatever, but like that's the thing, as a creative person, you have to keep creating. So like my tendency was for every time something happened unjustly or like just in a really messed up way, I would shut down. And that doesn't serve me at all, and it doesn't serve anybody else. People are like, oh, where's Meca Ayo? What happened? Meca Ayo shut down on the bed because people are being jerks. But you just have to trust people are going to be however they're going to be, and also learn how to collaborate with those energies, or figure out where the boundaries are. And as far as my life, I mean, I grew up working poor, abusive situation. And to be fair, they had also experienced a lot of trauma and abuse. And so like this track on massage therapy and trauma informed work, it's requiring me to heal and also recognize that we are all whole people. We get to be this full span of human experience. And hopefully, we're not intentionally causing harm. And sometimes we do cause harm. Like every one of us is a monster in somebody else's story. And so, we were talking about that mirror that AI provides earlier. And like, there's a tendency for each of us to think that we're always the victim. And also, we are a monster in somebody else's story. And we don't always get to hear it, and we don't always admit it, especially. And so those kinds of things bring me full circle to, I think I've always been this kind of person. Like, I want to understand the people around me. I want to understand how we work and think. And I want to understand kind of the juxtaposition between the things that are hard, the things that hurt, and also where the love and beauty is. Because you kind of can't have one without the other. The flowers wilt and die. The river might be dirty, but there's still herons that land there, like you can't really have one without the other. So you have to like hold both at the same time and figure out where you are and what kind of person you want to be.
Right.
So
it kind of brings us back to hope.
Hope is a discipline.
Hope is a discipline. Hope as a discipline. I love that so much.
And I mean, I'm not the first person to say it. Like, if you read Adrienne Marie Brown and her crew, let's just say Adrienne Marie Brown's crew, like all of them are super powerful healers in thinking and action, and just like, you know, things like what there's one like Alexis Pauline Gumbs, that's who I was trying to think of. There's this idea of not canceling anyone. And so like, you know, with call out culture and stuff, we're always like, oh, that person's gone. They're just like, they're not part of this situation anymore because they did something really, really bad. And not ever admitting that something we might have done has been bad. You know, I'm an American, I live in America. I have pretty much lights all the time. And why is that? It's because someone's suffering, you know? And if I do feel bad about that. And if I feel bad about that all the time, I'm not going to be able to function. So like, in what ways can I work? In what ways can I work? And in what actions can I take to balance that as best as I can from where I am?
Yeah, empathy with boundaries. I understand that very, very well. Oh, I could talk to you all day. I really could.
We gotta hang out.
I know, we do. I would love to open this up to the audience for questions, but I also would like to make a request of you. After this podcast, would you be willing to send us a list of some of the books you've mentioned today? You have given us so much, and I would love to offer that to the audience as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So if anybody has any questions for my dear friend Meca Ayo, you can drop it in the chat, or you can turn your camera on and ask whatever's easiest for you. And I'll give that a couple minutes. And if not, then I will continue the conversation. Oh, Dr. Thielsen.
I know. I had no intentions of coming on camera today.
Hello.
Mess behind me. I'm on the couch. I'm eating and all this stuff. But I was so moved by Meca Ayo's sharing and you know, coming from the purely technical side of AI, there's so much that I don't think about, which is kind of strange because I come from a culture raised, you know, very artistic music. You know, I'm from Caribbean, Trinidad, Tobago, Carnival, all that stuff. But you know, you had to shut that part of yourself down, right, to advance, you know, professionally and all that other stuff. I'm learning to re-embrace that and even incorporate it back into my professional life. But just listening to you, Meca Ayo, you have, in an amazing way, almost granted me permission. I don't, it's strange because I don't need permission, but you have granted me permission nonetheless. and so I just want to thank you so much for who you are and what you're doing, and for just being amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, Heather always finds these amazing people, so I am not surprised. So I'm going to get back off camera now and continue eating.
Thank you.
Oh, I agree. I think you're amazing too. I know you said you thought I was super cool, but you know,
you are.
You're not making this easy for me. I know a gem when I see it, and I'm very, very grateful to know you, and I'm very grateful to know True and Debron Chevron as well. I am super grateful with the community around me and the people that show up.
Awesome.
So speaking of community, while we're here, you and I are big lovers of creative community. We love to take part and be really active in the community. Is there something you're currently really involved in outside of the cellist group that we spoke about earlier?
Well, the cellist group might be a one-off thing. Like, we've been working on that for months, but personally, I'm definitely going to keep supporting them. I just love what's happening there so much. And Psyche's just an amazing human. I pulled away from a lot of things because so things would happen where, you know, I'm working at a bookshop, and then another bookshop calls me to work with them, and then both bookshops want me to host events, and then other places want me to host events, and then other people want me to come to their events and co-host or appear or be part of it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And so like things were just kind of like branching out like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything left for myself. And
Right.
so I actually snatched all of my energy back from all these places. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just like something I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was really hard for a while because I'm like, what am I doing? Am I shooting myself in my foot? Like these people want me there, you know, and etc. But what I was finding is like, despite however cool all these things were, I was getting so much further away from anything I wanted to do, and I was forgetting whatever that was.
Yeah.
So I pulled away a lot, um, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out where I want to go next. So I create a lot of things, kind of so many things, I can't really keep track of them most of the time. That's why this place looks like a warehouse right now. And like I don't usually ever stop to like, oh yeah, I did this thing. And then maybe someone 3 months from now will ask me for a specific zine or something, or a t-shirt I forgot I did years ago. I'm like, what? Like, you want that t-shirt? I guess I have to figure out how that works again. So like stuff like that. I don't really have, like, I know you keep sending me a lot of really amazing like grandma and like all these other amazing humans who can help me with stuff like that. And I just have been so disorganized that I haven't been able to yet. It's just like I don't know how to organize it and make it make sense for people looking in, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I'd like to do is take more photographs, sing more, and be able to travel with my writing. Those things are on the top still.
It's, you know, it's really true when you're putting out a lot of energy all the time. You do need to take breaks and back off, especially um you and I are both introverted, so I know the introvert thing too of like
Mhm.
you do need extra time to recharge when you're especially when you're really, really creative like you are.
Right, right.
Um, so how can we support you? How can people show up for you? And where can people find you as
Sure.
you continue on your career path?
I appreciate you. I'm pretty much at Siren Eats Poetry on all the social media. Siren Eats Poetry. I even changed my website to that,
Mhm.
just so I'm easier to find, because I may or may not change my name again.
Don't do that. Oh my God.
um, but sireneadspoetry.com, that'll get to me. Tamika.coleman.com, that'll get to me. And then Siren Eats Poetry, like say if you hit me up on Instagram, there I'm trying to part out a bunch of different projects.
Uh-huh.
So Mika's Noodles, I originally put that there to do more AI stuff,
Mhm.
but it's kind of been a mixture of stuff. Sometimes Rest is me going back to music. TLC Bodywork is my massage business. I think there's another thing on there, but I can't I can't remember right now.
And for people who don't know, before Meca Ayo was Meca Ayo, she was Tamika L. Coleman. So you might find her under either name.
Yeah, I mean technically I'm still Tamika L. Coleman, so I haven't officially changed it yet.
Okay. And before we go, to close us off, I'd also like to hear about your work with Rick Griffith. And for those people who don't know Rick, he is this phenomenal force in Denver, Colorado. He owns Matter, and he is an incredible designer and bookstore owner.
Yeah, it was I honestly had a hard time at Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so I need about 6 to 8 more months before I step foot back in there.
Mm-hmm.
And also I recognize the genius there, and Rick and Deborah both.
Mm-hmm.
They're both designers. Um, Matter is definitely a great asset, and Shop at Matter are great assets for our community and larger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, probably about 200 or 300 of these books over here are all design books from there because I just wanted to gobble it up as quickly as I could. There are conversations happening there about people of color, Black people, queer people in design, in architecture, and in the arts, and also tons of books to help, you know, your grandma who you think is never going to change, who's super racist, and you need to maybe bring her in gently, to the person who just needs to get their shit together, right? So it's like a spectrum of voices. And so despite whatever kind of hard stuff that happened for me there, and I definitely learned tons. And then you cannot like take away from, like I said, the genius of the way they're using design and creating communities, making structural and political change, and of course the printmaking.
Yes.
The printmaking is absolutely phenomenal. And Rick Griffith, as far as like getting to know people, connecting with people, and really quickly building rapport, and just like creating communities of learning is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So
Yeah.
I would just sit back and let them do the thing and like hope some of it rubbed off on me. So I like, you know, so definitely a cool space.
Meca Ayo, I absolutely adore you, and I am so grateful for you joining us on this podcast. As always, it is my deepest honor to be able to know you and interact with you. If there are any last questions, we are about to end this.
Okay.
And let's see, it looks like we are set. So I want to thank you so much. If you want to just hang out here with us for a minute, and we
Okay.
will close the podcast.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.